Hey everybody, welcome to the Blacklist, the show where we interview the elite. Today we have Leah Thompson. She's been featured everywhere from Time to Forbes to Business Insider to Bloomberg, all about crypto. And I first learned about you maybe about like 4 or 5 months ago when a mentor of mine actually introduced me. So Chris Winfield, thank you so much for the introduction. But she's stellar when it comes to this space. And I was talking to you outside about how sometimes crypto is like such a hype and then it like dies down. But for people that don't know you, give yourself a brief introduction before we kind of dive in.
Sure. My name's Leah. I got into crypto really back in about 2017. It was kind of a crazy time. Back then, there was, just a few dApps here and there, which are like decentralized applications. And I started using them and just kind of playing around with them. And it just kind of led me into this whole world of crypto. And I've just been kind of obsessed ever since.
Yeah. And why specifically crypto out of everything that you could have kind of dove into?
Well, it's kind of funny because at the time I was actually flipping designer purses. I was trying to do all of these like side hustles, and I was working in a tech job, but also just doing all these things. And I came across this blogging platform where you could earn crypto, and I was like, oh, I'll give that a try. We'll see what happens. And I started actually building some momentum on that platform. And then crypto conferences started asking me to come speak because they thought it was really interesting how I was like recording ukulele covers, on this like random crypto platform and, posting them and earning crypto. And so I started traveling around the world speaking at crypto conferences about how I was earning crypto with my ukulele.
Yeah.
And I just really got deep into it from there because once you actually have some crypto in your hand, then it's like, well, what do I do with this? Why
Right,
is it
right.
worth anything? How do I actually use this? And so it just kind of led me down that whole path of learning more about it. And the more I learned about it, the more excited about it I got. And yeah, I just kind of kept going from there.
Now, did they start reaching out because you were putting out a lot of content? Because, I've kind of taken a look at like, your IG and things like that, and you do post a lot of content about this stuff. Is that how they initially found you?
It's well, at the time, this like crypto platform was one of the only like really like kind of applications that had been built in crypto. And so there was a lot of eyeballs on it in the
Yeah.
crypto community. And so even though I wasn't talking about crypto at that time, I wasn't making content about crypto. That's kind of how it got started. And randomly, I ended up in a Super Bowl 2020 commercial from that
How crazy is
platform.
that?
Yeah. and and so I actually started my social channels about crypto not until 2019.
Yeah.
So I had a couple years just kind of on my own, playing around with it, learning more, before I really dove into making crypto related content.
Yeah. And kind of like I was telling you before, like, people will join kind of like the bandwagon and then people will fall off. Like, why did you continue to kind of stick with it? Is it because you see a future in it, which, pretty obvious, but like, why did you continue to stick with it? And how have you been able to kind of, not fall off when things like are not too hot right now?
I think because to me, the bear markets and these kind of lower times are such an exciting opportunity. So in 2017, that was kind of the really beginning of that last bull run,
Yeah.
and so at that point, I had a little bit of crypto and I got to see the impact of going through a bull run. And I was like, oh, wow, this is really interesting.
Yeah.
This actually has the potential to maybe change my life if I, really kind of double down and learn more about this. And the more I researched and learned, the more I was like, oh, wow, there are fairly predictable market cycles. And I think that this could maybe happen again in a few years. Maybe I should really double down
Mm,
and really, use this as an opportunity to, to again, completely change the landscape of what I was doing. And so, um, to be able to, really have that time where things were calmer, quieter, where I could focus on learning about it and really developing, what I was doing was just such an incredible time. And so this bear market, I've really felt the same. It's like,
yeah.
yes, there's way less hype. There's way less, interest. Your friends aren't texting you about crypto anymore, and so it's been really nice just to have that kind of quieter time again to keep kind of building and advancing that. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Try to educate some of the people that are like listening that thought, that like I call them meme coins and shit coins and things like that. Like that
Yeah.
was the thing to do because I've known people that they invested into that type of stuff. They would invest maybe, a couple thousand or whatever. And like one of my friends, actually multiple friends, but like one friend that I know specifically made $10 million in 1 year off of shit coins. But a lot of it, maybe not his, but like I know a lot of people also got in trouble because they were like
Mhm.
pumping and dumping and but they made quick money. Um, for people that kind of have probably fallen into that, you spoke to somebody literally here at the Win about talking about that type of stuff. So try to educate some of the people that don't know about this type of stuff, what to kind of look out for.
I'm so glad you asked that because I think that you hear those success stories and you're like, well, why can't that be me? And yeah,
I did the same thing. Yep.
I've done some of it myself. We all have, but
Yeah.
I think that what's really it's easy to get caught up in that idea of like, oh, well, maybe I can just make this quick cash, and maybe it. But ultimately, having a long-term investment thesis and strategy is something that I think is completely important because if you're just buying random things because you heard about it on Twitter or you saw someone post about it, or the likelihood that you're going to be that person that randomly makes $10 million is
Sure.
very, very slim, especially if you don't understand the real core reason behind why you think it might.
Yeah.
There were definitely some things that just seemed so random, and they probably were, and some people got very lucky. But more often than not, I think that if you can really clearly state, hey, this is something I'm investing in for these reasons, these are the reasons I think that it has a lot of potential. Maybe they're doing something that's a little bit different. Maybe the amount of, development on top of it is really good. You feel really good about
Right.
the team. Like there's all these factors you can look at. Like whatever your things are that you're really researching, be able to articulate that. And is this like a short term thing? Is this a long term thing for you? But if someone's like, "Why'd you buy this?" and you're like, "I don't know, I heard about it on the internet," that's probably not a very good reason, and you're probably gonna get wrecked.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how do you make sure someone vets it correctly? Because, people might not know about like the teams behind them, and I know, because like Bitcoin, not Bitcoin, but like coins in general, people would make up projects just so that way they can get a ton of funding, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work or whatever, right? So how can people be safe while vetting projects?
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of different tools out there. It still is this very like nebulous thing though, to be like everyone
Yeah.
says do your own research, but how?
Yep.
How
Yeah.
do you do that research? And so again, it kind of comes back to that idea of have a really strong thesis around what you're doing. And so if you feel really overwhelmed by trying to figure out what the tokenomics really look like, what that means, what the team, if they're good or not, then stick with some of the bigger top level projects at first that have been much more heavily vetted, that have a lot more development, that have a lot more longevity, and kind of slowly build your way in as you learn. Don't feel like you have to learn everything all at once. It's okay to be like, I'm going to learn about Bitcoin and I'm going to
Right.
start there. And I'm going to learn about Ethereum and I'm going to start there. And there's no need to, feel like you need to completely learn how to read smart contracts and do all of these crazy things right away.
Yeah.
Be patient with yourself and with your learning process and, start small. And I think that it's better to really fully understand a couple of things that you are in versus trying to just, get the penny stock, buy
Yeah.
everything, hoping something pumps. I mean, sometimes that works, but again, I think that part of you asked earlier why I've been, around in the space for as long as I have and I haven't burnt out and left is because I do have that kind of long-term, kind of more patient approach.
Yeah, no, I like that. But some other projects like we were talking about outside is like FTX. Isn't that correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that like a bigger project that involves like crypto and things like that? And it was huge. So many people endorsed it. Kevin O'Leary, like a ton of YouTube influencers were sponsors, and then that just kind of fell through the cracks. So what are your thoughts on that situation?
Yeah, that is a great question, and it's kind of funny too because I had people actually text me after that to be like, "Oh, I'm sorry that crypto failed, and now you have to go find something else to do." I'm like, "No, no, it didn't. It's this one platform." So when we're talking about crypto, so yes, they did have a token, but more so they were a platform, an exchange. So
Yeah.
kind of like Coinbase, kind of like Binance, like a place that you could go buy crypto. It turns out though, they didn't have the money they said they did to back up what they had. And so it all collapsed really quickly when that, kind of was forced into light by, various, situations. But Um, yeah, and so that's, I think, really harmful for the industry in the sense of trust,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
but I also think that it really brings about an important topic that is really central to the ethos of cryptocurrency and the space in general, and that's decentralization. Being your own bank, owning your own money, peer-to-peer transaction, all of these kind of like buzzwords you hear around
Yeah.
crypto. The reason why, really Bitcoin and this whole industry was born was actually from the rebels of the 2008 financial crisis, being like, wow, we need another alternative where we don't have to rely on banks and centralized institutions and basically third party intermediaries. Because, if your bank suddenly shut down, how are you going to get to your money?
Yeah.
FTX shut down. How are you going to get to your crypto? They're the ones holding it, and so there's the really a lot of the movement behind crypto was being able to take control of your funds, and so there's
Right.
ways to do that where you can set up your own hardware wallet. You can set up your own wallets and do that and hold the funds yourself. It's in some ways though, that's pretty scary because there's no customer service line to call
Yeah.
if you mess something up or you do something wrong. But ultimately, taking that next step and learning how to do that is actually really not that hard. It's really not. I sleep a lot better at night knowing that I'm not going to wake up and suddenly find out that let's say I had all my money on Coinbase, like if they shut down or something, like that would
Yeah.
be incredibly stressful, right? And so knowing that that's an option is, I think, one of the coolest things about the entire crypto space is it lets you actually detach from the current monetary system and the banking system, which, as we've seen, is
Recently.
recently hurting. Just
Yep.
some of the cracks in the foundation are starting to show, and so the fractional reserve banking, I guess, has some fractions, there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so I think that this is really bringing that conversation to light. The collapse of FTX is showing like, oh wow, some of these crypto platforms aren't too big to fail. And so maybe I should be learning how to hold my
Yep.
own funds.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think getting educated, especially in this space, is super important. Because yeah, like we're noticing, which is crazy. I think it's happened in like maybe the past 4 years where we're seeing a lot of things that we thought were normal,
Mhm.
kind of like break down. Like for example, the banking situation that just happened recently, FTX, like a lot of things that I don't know, we just didn't think would happen. It's like there's a lot of holes being poked. You know,
Mhm.
um, can you get that door real quick? Cool, we can cut that part out. Yeah, there's just like a lot of holes being poked, which is like super, super kind of important to see. And that's why it's very, very important to get educated. Now, how do you kind of determine, for example, like AI right now is a hot,
Mm.
hot topic.
Mhm.
I'm getting into it. Everybody's getting into it. My dad, like everybody's getting into it, right? How do you see that playing out with crypto?
Yeah, so I think that in general, I'm getting super excited about AI as well. I mean, how could you not?
Yeah,
It's so incredible the different things that you can do with it. But I think that taking the time to learn about things that are on the cutting edge, you're never going to feel like that was time wasted. That's always
true.
going to set you ahead. Like you think back to the old days when computers were new and like people used to say on their resumes, I'm good with computers. And they're like, oh, good. We need someone like you. And
Yeah.
now everyone's good with computers.
Yep.
Taking the time to learn about crypto, learn about AI, be on that kind of cutting edge, I think is super important. And so, how AI can integrate with crypto, there's so many potential opportunities. And that's where, like in this world of crypto, you'd mentioned like meme coins and different things. Like there's been so many different phases of what's been like the next evolution of, disruption or, what's been the big thing and how that, blockchain technology has kind of advanced and opened different doors. And, sometimes people are like, well, what's the next big thing? And I'm like, it's hard to know because
Yeah.
there's just been so many different, we had the huge NFT boom. We've had, so many different things come out from these technologies. And so is AI going to be one of them? Maybe.
Well, what do you think? Do you think AI is going to be like, yeah, what's your prediction between both of those worlds?
One thing I think would be really interesting, and you're already definitely seeing some of this, is, one of the big things in crypto that's, I think, one of the scariest sections of the crypto space is learning how to trade and having that,
Yeah.
like learning technical analysis and figuring out how to read charts and do some of these things. And so there's definitely already some AI kind of crypto tools out there, but I definitely think there's a lot more room for advancement in terms of helping people build, kind of like algorithms and different things to help them hopefully predict things. I mean, crypto is fairly unpredictable,
Yeah.
but I think that that's going to be a really interesting kind of integration between the two worlds.
Because that kind of reminds me, like I have, well, I haven't used it in a long time, but there was like this bot that would buy and sell for me, like every second or so, and not kind of, it wouldn't guess, but like crypto is going to go high and go low, and it's very volatile, especially with like certain coins. So like my bot would essentially buy and sell, right, like automatically without me.
Mhm.
I can kind of see like AI playing more of a part of that, more of a part into that type of stuff, where it's like you don't necessarily have to do the trading yourself. You don't even have to learn how to, read it, like you're mentioning.
Mhm.
I think that's kind of scary because if everybody can do that, like then I don't know. I just have to me, I can't fathom it. How that reality will look like.
Well, I think that one thing I would say on that front is just like with anything in AI right now. Like, let's say that you are a programmer and you use ChatGPT to help you do some kind of mundane things more quickly.
Right.
The person who already understands how to program is going to get so much more out of that AI tool versus someone who's never programmed something and they're like, hey, AI, can you program an app for me?
Yeah.
That's not going to really work on the same way. And so I think that with these kind of trading bot and tool potential AI things, it'll be similar where people that already really understand the underlying, kind of methods here are going to be able to leverage AI to, kind of advance that and improve on that. But someone who has no idea what they're doing, it's still going to
True.
be something that it'll have like a limited, I think, effect.
No, that makes a lot of sense. It's like it's still based on the user because like the user still has to make sure that they know what they're doing, right? When they kind of insert any inputs and things like that.
Yep, and AI is not gonna, hit that buy or sell button for you. You still gotta be able to stomach your life choices.
100%, 100%. Well, based off of like what you're saying, I don't know, is it possible to predict another like bull run? Because right now we are in a bear market. Is that right?
Yeah, we're definitely, kind of deep in a bear market. But that being said, maybe we're starting to pull out, maybe, starting to see some kind of cracks in the monetary system,
Yeah.
and some of these banking collapses might accelerate that. That's it's all kind of up for potential debate there. But we have predictably seen bull and bear markets kind of center around the Bitcoin halving. And so, we've got the next one coming up in 2024. And so, usually we'll see, a bit of a ramp up heading towards it. And then it doesn't immediately kick off right after the halvings. So,
Yeah.
maybe it's later 24, maybe it's 25. But again, like these are things that there's so many different factors and the industry is continuing to develop that it's not like we're always going to be on this exact 4-year schedule all the
That's true.
time,
Yeah.
and so whether we continue to see more adoption, like in the last bull run, we saw El Salvador actually adopt it as legal tender.
Yeah.
We saw more companies put it on their balance sheet. So how quickly do we see the acceleration of those things continue or not?
Yep.
And that can also play into it. So there's just a lot of macro world factors that I think could disrupt the kind of usual cycle. But traditionally, it's kind of centered around the Bitcoin halving. So.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Well, I want to change topics a little bit. I want to dive into a little bit more about you. So, how does it look like when you work with a company, or if they're looking to hire you for help? How does that look like? How do you help either companies or individuals that kind of want your expertise?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of different ways, that could potentially take form. But I think my kind of favorite way to work with like cool brands in the crypto space is to help them with their educational content because I think that there is such a need for more education. And
Yeah.
so if I can partner with them to help make, especially videos, I like video content, to be like, all right, how can we really break down some of these topics so that your users can better understand what's going on. And so I think that's my favorite way to kind of work with people because I think that in general, and this is what I try to focus on in my own content as well, is that, you see these like beginner guides that are
Right.
basically say things like, well, it's a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, and
And you're
it's,
like, what?
you raise the hedge against the, broken monetary systems and the blah, and it's got like all of these words, decentralized this, and, and if you're truly new to crypto, that doesn't mean anything to you. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like that, it's all just kind of like, wait, what? And I remember when I first got started and I was trying to learn, I didn't understand half the words these guys were saying in these videos, and I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. And so I think that really creating, more approachable educational content is just very, very important for the space right now.
Yeah, no, I think that's one of your superpowers actually, because
Mhm.
you're really good at making like complex things very simple. And I know that because when I actually watched a few of your videos, it's like I understand this, which
Mm.
means I'm intrigued, which means I'm engaged and I'm going to continue to be engaged. But like you said, with others, it's like they speak a bunch of jargon, and I'm pretty sure they know what they're talking about, but I don't know what they're talking about, and that's where the gap is.
Mm.
And you do a very good job of like stooping to people who don't know anything about it and like being able to teach them and kind of getting them up to speed. That's one of your superpowers for sure, which is super important, right? Communication and making sure that people are educated on that.
Well, thank you. And honestly, like I think one of my big goals with like everything I do is to help break down those barriers so it is more approachable. Because I know when I first got started, most of the people videos I watched were like guys streaming maybe from their mom's basement,
Yep,
for
yep.
like an hour long, and I'm like, I don't even understand, what's going on here. And so I think that when people are first getting into crypto, everyone wishes they had that like friend that could just sit down with them and like walk them through it all. And I'm like, we don't always have, not everyone has the luxury of having that friend, in their life. And so I'm like, all right, let me be your friend. We'll walk through this. We'll figure it out together, And so I hope that if anything gets taken away from it, it's that people go from that, like, I don't know, I feel a little like, is this for me? It's a little intimidating. If I can just help people get from that to be like, you know what? I can do this. If that girl can do it, I can do it.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
No, I love that. I think that's great. So for people listening, what's one or two pieces of advice that you can give them that will kind of just help them out in not necessarily in their career, but to make just better decisions?
Just to make better like life decisions in general, huh?
Life decisions, yeah, that involve crypto.
Perfect. So, kind of coming back to something I'd said earlier that I think is so important is um, don't feel like you missed the boat. Don't feel like you've got to rush in and learn everything. There's a lot to process. There's a lot of different segments of the crypto space. There's NFTs, there's the metaverse, there's blockchain technology, there's smart contract. I mean, there's just so many different like little areas. And so don't feel overwhelmed that you need to try to learn it all at once. Kind of just take it at your own pace. Move through it. But also, if there's one piece of advice I can say is that it's really not that hard. It's really not. Like, it seems like it's going to be so intimidating. And yes, there is a lot to learn and there's a lot of different details, but like you can do it. You can do it. Again, if I can do it, you can do it. It's really like, I think that just having that confidence that like, okay, I can figure this out. Um, you know, you got this.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Where can people find you?
All right. So I am on, most of the major social platforms. So Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Girl Gone Crypto is my social, username. So
All right. Well, thank you so much. It was great having you.
thank you, Ulysses. This has been really fun. I appreciate it.